The upscale restaurant gleamed with crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths, the kind of place where entrees cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Daniel Kim moved between tables with practiced efficiency, balancing plates, refilling wine glasses, smiling politely, even when customers barely acknowledged his existence. At 32, with a 9-year-old son at home, waiting tables paid the bills. Barely. His ex-wife had disappeared 3 years ago, leaving him with full custody and a mountain of debt. The restaurant job was steady, and the manager let him take leftover food home for his son, Jacob. What nobody knew, what Daniel never mentioned, was his past. Before Jacob, before marriage and fatherhood, before he'd hung up his gloves and walked away from the cage, Daniel Kim had been the Silent Storm, an undefeated MMA fighter who'd retired at his peak, walking away from sponsorships and championship belts because he'd promised his dying mother he'd leave the violence behind and build a normal life. Now he carried trays instead of titles, and he was fine with that. Until tonight. More champagne! A loud voice boomed from table 12. Richard Castellano, real estate millionaire, held up his empty glass without looking at Daniel. His entourage laughed at something on his phone, ignoring the half-eaten $100 steaks in front of them. "Right away, sir." Daniel refilled the glass smoothly. "And tell the chef this steak is overcooked. I ordered medium rare." Castellano shoved his plate toward Daniel, nearly knocking over a water glass. Daniel glanced at the perfectly cooked steak, clearly medium rare, exactly as ordered. "I'll speak with the chef, sir." "Don't speak with anyone, just fix it." Castellano's eyes never left his phone. In the kitchen, Chef Marie looked at the returned steak and rolled her eyes. "It's perfect. He's just being difficult." "I know, but the customer is always right, apparently." Daniel smiled wearily. When he returned with a new steak identical to the first, Castellano was standing, arguing loudly with another diner about parking spaces and property values. His face was flushed from alcohol, his voice carrying across the quiet restaurant. "Excuse me, sir, your steak—" Castellano spun around and his elbow caught the plate, sending it crashing to the floor. Hot steak and sauce splattered across Daniel's pants and shoes, the plate shattering on the marble. The restaurant went silent. "You idiot!" Castellano roared. "Look what you did! These pants cost $3,000! "I apologize, sir. Let me—" "Let you what? Ruin my entire evening." Castellano's face was purple now, alcohol and ego combining into rage. "You incompetent—" He shoved Daniel, hard. It wasn't a push. It was an aggressive, two-handed shove meant to humiliate, to assert dominance. Daniel stumbled backward, barely keeping his balance. Something flickered in Daniel's eyes. Something cold and dangerous that hadn't been there a moment before. His body shifted slightly, weight redistributing, hands positioning themselves in ways that looked casual but were anything but. Then the old training kicked in, the muscle memory screaming at him to respond, to counter, to end this threat in 3 seconds flat like he'd been trained to do for 15 years. But there was Jacob at home. Jacob who needed a father, not a fighter. Jacob who couldn't afford for Daniel to lose this job, get arrested, throw away everything they'd built. Daniel took a breath, forced his hands to relax. Let the warrior go back to sleep. "My apologies, sir. Let me get you a towel." "A towel?" Castellano's voice dripped with contempt. "You think a towel fixes this?" He grabbed Daniel's shirt front. "You're going to pay for my pants, and the meal, and my time." "Sir, please let go." Castellano kicked him, a straight kick to Daniel's shin meant to hurt, to punish. It was a terrible kick, telegraphed, slow, no power behind it. Any first-year MMA student could have blocked it, countered it, turned it into a takedown that ended with Castellano on his back, arm locked, tapping out in seconds. Daniel just took it. But his face told a different story. The other diners saw it, the staff saw it, and Castellano's friends, suddenly paying attention, saw it too. This wasn't a man who couldn't defend himself. This was a man choosing not to. "Richard, that's enough." One of Castellano's companions stood up, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes. You just assaulted him. Assault? I barely touched him. You shoved him and kicked him in front of 50 witnesses. The woman pulled out her phone. I recorded it. This waiter has grounds to press charges. Castellano's face shifted from rage to calculation. He's fine. Aren't you fine? He looked at Daniel with threatening eyes. Tell them you're fine. Daniel met his gaze calmly. I'm fine. See, he's fine. No harm done. Castellano started to sit back down. Actually, said a voice from the entrance, I don't think he is fine. A man approached, 60s, fit, with the bearing of someone important. Daniel recognized him, Robert Chen, owner of Chen Industries, one of the restaurant's regular VIP customers. Mr. Castellano, Chen said coldly, I've been dining here for 15 years. I've watched Daniel serve with grace and professionalism countless times. Tonight I watched you assault him, twice. This doesn't concern you. It does, because I know exactly who Daniel Kim is. Chen looked at Daniel with something like respect. Don't you, son? Daniel said nothing. Silent storm. Chen continued. 12 professional fights, 12 wins, 8 by knockout, 4 by submission. You walked away undefeated 7 years ago at 25, when most fighters are just getting started. You were being called the next champion. The restaurant erupted in whispers. Castellano's face went white. He's a waiter. He's a father, Chen corrected. Raising his son alone, working an honest job, staying out of trouble. But make no mistake, Mr. Castellano. The man you just kicked could have ended this confrontation in seconds. He has more restraint in his pinky finger than you've shown in your entire life. Castellano looked at Daniel with new eyes, seeing now the fighter's posture, the controlled breathing, the quiet danger in someone who'd spent years learning to hurt people efficiently. I didn't know. That's the point, Daniel said quietly. You didn't need to know. You just needed to treat me like a human being. He turned to the manager. I need to clock out. My son's expecting me. Daniel, wait. The manager looked panicked. Mr. Castellano will apologize. I don't need an apology. Daniel untied his apron. But I do need to explain to my 9-year-old son why Daddy came home with bruises from a customer who thought it was okay to hit the help. And I need to decide if I can keep working somewhere that lets that happen. Now hold on, Castellano started. No, you hold on. Chen stepped forward. Daniel, how much do you make here annually? Daniel hesitated. About $32,000 with tips. I'm offering you $50,000 to start, plus benefits, as facilities manager at Chen Industries. Normal hours, weekends off. You'll supervise building operations, security, maintenance. It's honest work, it pays better, and nobody will kick you. Mr. Chen, I can't just... Yes, you can. You have skills beyond fighting, discipline, situational awareness, crisis management. You've proven you can keep calm under pressure. Chen smiled. And you've proven you can walk away from a fight even when provoked. That's the kind of man I want on my team. Daniel looked around the restaurant, at the manager who'd let customers abuse him for 3 years, at Castellano who'd thought power meant he could hurt people, at the diners now watching with fascination instead of helping when it mattered. Then he thought of Jacob at home, waiting for his dad, who deserved better than a father who came home bruised and humiliated. When do I start? Tomorrow if you're ready. Chen handed him a business card. Come by at 9. We'll do the paperwork. Daniel nodded, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the exit. Castellano found his voice. Wait, I'm sorry, okay? I was drunk, I was an ass. Daniel stopped, turned. You weren't drunk when you shoved me the first time. You weren't drunk when you grabbed my shirt. You made choices. You chose to hurt someone you thought couldn't fight back. His voice was quiet but carried through. The silent restaurant. The tragedy isn't that you picked a fight with a trained fighter. It's that you'd have done the same thing if I really was. Just a waiter with no way to defend himself. That's who you are! He left Castellano standing there, speechless, while the entire restaurant watched. 5 years later, Daniel stood in his office at Chen Industries, assistant director of operations now, with a team of 20 reporting to him. The walls held photos of Jacob at various school events, awards for safety and efficiency improvements, commendations from building tenants, no photos from his fighting days. That life was gone and he didn't miss it. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Mr. Kim? This is Richard Castellano. I don't know if you remember me." "I remember." "Right. I wanted to tell you something." That night, the restaurant, it changed me. I was forced into anger management therapy as part of settling the civil complaint. And in therapy, I had to confront what I'd become. A bully. Someone who thought money meant I could treat people however I wanted. Castellano's voice was different. Now, smaller, humbler. "I sold my company last year, started a foundation providing job training for service workers trying to transition to better careers. It's called Second Chances, and I wanted to ask if you'd consider joining our board." Daniel was silent for a long moment. "Why me?" "Because you showed me something that night. You had every reason to hit back, every right to defend yourself, but you didn't. You took the high road even when I gave you every excuse not to. That kind of restraint, that kind of character, that's what our foundation needs." "I'll think about it," Daniel said finally. "Send me the information." After he hung up, Daniel looked out his office window at the city below. He thought about the fighter he'd been, undefeated, dangerous, respected through fear, and the man he'd become, a father, a leader, someone who'd learned that walking away from a fight took more strength than winning one. Jacob was 13 now, thriving, talking about college. And Daniel had learned that the most important battles weren't fought in cages or restaurants. They were fought in the quiet moments when you chose dignity over revenge, character over ego, the high road over the easy one. The silent storm hadn't disappeared. He'd just learned that true strength wasn't about how hard you could hit. It was about how much you could endure while staying true to who you wanted to be. And that was a fight worth winning.